Yes, Prabhu, you are live.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. Very good to see many of you. So we will begin with Jai Radha Madhav, and is our tradition, and then we will start the program. Jai Radha Madhav Kunda Bihari, Jai Radha Madhav Kunda Bihari. Jai Radha Madhav Kunda Bihari, Jai Radha Madhav Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Vraja Janarandana, Yashodanandana Vraja Janarandana, Yashodanandana Vraja Janarandana, Yashodanandana Vraja Janarandana. Yamuna Tiravanachari, Yamuna Tiravanachari, Yamuna Tiravanachari, Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Vraja Janarandana, Yashodanandana Vraja Janarandana, Yamuna Tiravanachari, Yamuna Tiravanachari, Yamuna Tiravanachari, Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, यशोदनंदन जन नंदना, यशोदनंदन गज जन रंजन, यमुना तीरवनचारी, यमुना तीरवनचारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी. हरे कृष्णा. Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for joining and giving us your association. I'm very happy to see many familiar faces, and I'm sure this video will be watched later on uh, by many more, because this is Krishna Katha, it is purifying, especially for the speaker. So, before I begin, let us do Mangalacharan prayers, invoking auspiciousness and blessings from the Acharyas, so that they may kindly empower us to speak Krishna Katha in proper mood, and after speaking and hearing, and we may we have the strength to follow whatever we are speaking and hearing as well. So we will do the Mangalacharan prayers together. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Ladita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद. हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यमीश्वरम्. हरे कृष्ण. So, let me share my screen, and we're going to begin this topic of karma. Many of us wonder about this single specific question. Probably pulled many devotees to Krishna consciousness. And that question is what we also use as our advertising tagline. So, and that question is, why do bad things happen to good people? We see in this world uh, so many good people living their life nicely, nicely in their own way, whatever they feel is nice. But eventually, uh, meeting some bad situations in life, getting cancers, having COVID and leaving the body suddenly, getting a heart attack, falling down in the bathroom and leaving their body, or they could have a lot of diseases and issues in the family and things like that. And it's quite natural for us to wonder, why do bad things happen to good people? And this is one of the ways Krishna pulls the conditioned soul to the spiritual knowledge. So we will try to share some things that I heard and learned from His Grace Radhesham Prabhu and many more wonderful Vaishnavas. I hope you're able to see my screen.
Yes, bro.
Thank you. So before we understand uh, this particular question, there are some basics we must explore. But here is the agenda that I'm planning to cover, some of it at least. Uh, Hopefully, in a future session, Radha Madan Mohanji, if he kindly allows me to serve all of you again, we would love to do this. This is one such session, even though we may have heard it multiple times in the past. Every time we hear, we discover newer meaning and deeper realizations come forward when we sincerely hear and speak these sessions. Um, and I'm hoping those of you who have been practicing and who are already firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness, this may not be a topic that may be very relevant to you, but uh, we can learn from the presentation of His Grace Radhesham Prabhu how we can systematically answer this particular question of why do bad things happen to good people. So, so first we will speak a little bit about the basics before we can convince people of why bad things happen to good people, and those so-called bad things are actually good for them. We would have to bring them to some fundamental questions of life, and we're going to discover those first. What is the true nature of ourselves? And then we will dive into what is karma. And one very important question, most people don't ask this, which is why karma exists. Most people are interested in why karma exists. Sorry, how karma works. That's what they are most interested in. But we're going to spend some time on why karma exists. What is the point of karma? So, with that, uh, let me get started. We were discussing this in our Gita classes, real problem criteria. So, and that is a problem that is common to all, nobody wants it, and nobody can avoid it. We were giving this example of how if it's raining, people say, oh, that's a bad thing. But it's not a problem for those shops which carry umbrellas. They are very joyful when it rains, they know we're going to sell more umbrellas. So most problems, most so-called problems in this world are actually problems only to some. Someone was asking recently, how about taxes? Uh, Taxes are also not problem. That's not a common problem. In order to pay taxes, you should have income. And we were discussing how uh, college student doesn't care about taxes, whether it's 10% or 50%, because he has no income to pay income tax. So real problems of life have to meet these three criteria. And I think uh, because the session is not about it, I will not keep the suspense. And those are Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha, Doshanudarshan. The birth, old age, disease, and death. These are the four real problems of life. I think most people are able to understand how death is a problem. Nobody wants it. Common to all. Nobody can avoid it. Old age is also same. Nobody likes old age. Nobody likes old people, unfortunately. And nobody wants to get sick. Disease means we are not at ease. So that is disease. We are not at ease. And Janma is also, of course, who likes to be hung upside down for 9 months in a very tight knit space. So none of these are pleasurable experiences. And so these are the four main problems that we must target to solve. And it is mentioned, Ahara Nidra Bhayamaitunam cha Samanyam Pashubi Samanam Dharme hi tesham adhiko vishesho dharmena hina pashubi samanam. Unless we actually go beyond eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, which is common between animals and human beings, and go beyond these and ask questions related to why do I have to suffer these four main problems of life, we would not have begun human birth, according to Mahabharata verse that I just quoted. So, the natural question is, how do I solve that problem? How do I solve these four problems? Why do I have to take the cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death again and again and again? And here is a very beautiful analogy. Most of you may have heard, but it's a very beautiful picture. It's a chariot of 5 horses indicating the 5 senses. And you see this picture very beautifully depicts how there is a chariot driver and all the senses are collected together by the ropes. And there is a chariot driver who himself seems to be a little confused, weak. And there is a passenger sitting on the back. And this is an analogy that comes from Vedas. Bhagavad Gita also gives a similar analogy, not exact, but how when the 5 senses are not controlled, 5 senses represented by the 5 horses, and the rope represents the mind, and the chariot driver represents the intelligence. And when the intelligence is not purified, or when the intelligence is weak, and the senses are dragging us everywhere, the condition of the soul, which is compared to the passenger, is what we see in the picture here. It's frightened, bewildered, is worried. And that's the nature of the conditioned souls in this world. Why do we have fear? Why are we afraid of what wrong might happen and things like that? Is ultimately because we have lost touch with our real self, and we have lost touch with the Supreme Lord, who is our most well-wisher, and we are totally absorbed in running around and satisfying the senses. So it is mentioned the goal of life. The goal of life is not to satisfy the senses, which keep demanding again and again and again and never satisfied, but instead to realize that we have 6 enemies lurking in our heart. And those are lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, and illusion. Kama, Krodha, Ityadi. So the moment we understand the goal of human life, one of the goals, I should say, maybe the preliminary goals, one of the preliminary goals of human life is to purify my existence, purify my senses, purify my mind, purify my intelligence. And instead of going down these steps, instead, we must try to go up. If we understand this, that, okay, one of the goals of my life is to get rid of these six enemies and go up on the spiritual path. That is a very good starting point from which we can understand karma. So I'm assuming all of this is known to the audience, and I'm going to proceed further. Um, if any of the audience would like to unmute and read, we'll be happy to. I don't know if they'll be able to unmute.
Do. Yeah,
As the,
they can unmute. Yes. Please go ahead.
as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such change.
Very nice. Thank you, Adi. So this verse, very famous verse from the Bhagavad Gita, which mentions how we go from youth, boyhood to youth to old age. Similarly, the soul is passing through. And the real self is the soul. And this passing from one body to another is merely a change of dress, a change of t-shirt. So uh, sometimes those who are very absorbed in the body will see this experience of changing the body as all in all and as a very frightful or a fearful experience. But the moment we understand I'm not the body, I'm the soul, and the body is meant to go through these transformations anyway, um, it is very beneficial to understand again karma. Okay, here is another story that comes from the Srimad Bhagavatam of Maharaj Bharat, who gave up his kingdom after he had elderly children to take care, old enough children to take care of the kingdom. And it is mentioned how he got attached to a deer when he was in the forest. And even though he was doing his daily rituals, he was so attached to the deer that he was constantly thinking of the deer. Oh, where is my deer? Oh, where is my deer? and and thinking like this, one day, of course, the deer ran away, and searching after the deer, in separation from the deer, thinking of the deer very dearly, he leaves his body. And there is a very beautiful verse from the Bhagavad Gita 8.6, which mentions Yam Yam Vapi Smaran Bhavam Tyajatyante Kalevaram Tam Tam Evaiti Kaunteya Sada Tad Bhava Bhavitaha. How at the time of death, whatever is the consciousness we have, whatever we are thinking at that moment is what we will attain in our next life. And that's what Bharat Maharaj obtained. In his next life, he actually became a deer because he was thinking about a deer while leaving his body. So, if the goal of life is to purify our existence and go back to the spiritual world, if that is our goal, naturally thinking of temporary material desires will not facilitate our ultimate goal of life. So Krishna may sometimes give us these so-called punishments so as to teach us a lesson. And that's what we call karma. But let us proceed further and see what else we have. I'm going to skip some of this. Okay, can someone else read this, please?
Okay, Prabhu. When we see the world around us full of disparities, rich, poor, handsome, ugly, intelligent, dull, fair, black, strong, weak, literate, illiterate, that often provokes questions in our heart. How could fate be so unfair? Why does one boy enjoy while another boy suffers? But the answers to such questions are crucial to all of us because they give us a direct clue to how we can become free from all future suffering. Haribol.
Thank you, Prabhu. I'm using many of these slides are from Radheshyam Prabhu. So all glories to him and his team for putting this together. Very beautiful, succinct, powerful points are mentioned here. So it is mentioned no one chooses their parents. So no one is going to think, okay, when I'm going to take birth, this is my mom, this is my dad. So Texas will be too hot. Maybe Seattle has too much rain. Let me choose California. And okay, I'm going to appear here and descend here and incarnate. None of us choose like that. So similarly, none of us choose, okay, I should have this much nose and jawline and hair and height. None of us choose that. So it's chosen for us. In fact, we have no choice actually. Based on our past activities, it is already decided for us. So all these questions naturally provoke in our heart. So is this unfair arrangement? Is God so random that sometimes, okay, all right, you take birth in a good family, you take birth in a poor family, you become beautiful, you become ugly, short, tall, like that? That doesn't seem like God, who is a very intelligent being, who is capable of creating such a sophisticated world, such a sophisticated human body. At least I think there must be some logic behind all of this. So, what is karma? And there is a very beautiful story. I think this comes from one of the Puranas. Once, one Brahmana, he was on a pilgrimage. And as he is traveling on the pilgrimage, back then there were no hotels. So he came to a village and he knocked on one of the doors and he said, "Oh, I am a traveling Brahmana. Can I take rest in your veranda, in your front yard for tonight?" So the head of the household, he said, "Yes, yes, of course. We will give you some prasadam." So he arranged some prasadam. The Brahmana took the prasadam and he slept outside. And in the middle of the night, the woman, the wife of that person, the wife of the head of the household, the wife of the household, she came out and she said, "Oh, Brahmana, you look very beautiful. I, I am fed up with my husband. I don't want to deal with him anymore. So I want to marry you. I want to run away with you and enjoy with you." But the Brahmana said, "No, no, no. Oh, mother, you have given me shelter. How can I do that? No, no, no. I'm really sorry." And she insisted, begged, borrowed, steal, but nothing. The Brahmana was a very pious person. So he said, "No, mother, I cannot." So with great anger and disappointment, she went inside. And as she went inside, the Brahmana heard a very loud scream. Ah! It was very loud. And as he heard this loud sound, he went inside. And when he went inside, he saw the head of the household, her husband, was lying down in a pool of blood with a knife in his chest. And he was shouting, "Please help, please help." And seeing this, so he went near. And as he was pulling out, he realized that the his wife, the wife of the household, must have killed the husband because she did not like him. And as he was pulling out, the neighbors from the neighboring houses, they also came hearing the loud screaming. So as they came, this Brahmana was pulling the knife and they saw blood all over the body of the Brahmana with a knife, and the person lying below, and that head of the household left his body. And this Brahmana was shocked. He understood. And then the wife of the household, she said, "Oh, this Brahmana wanted to enjoy me, uh, and why my husband tried to stop him, and he killed him." The Brahmana was bewildered. He was thinking, "What did I do?" And the villagers decided that how can we kill a Brahmana? But it looks like, based on all the evidence, it looks like Brahmana must have committed this crime. So they decided, because he killed the husband, we must chop off the hand as a punishment, as a capital punishment. So they chopped off his hand, crying. And he was thinking, what did I do? Why did this happen to me? And walking like this, and he reached the end of the village and sitting under a tree, crying, he fell asleep. And in his dream, it is mentioned that his previous life was revealed to him. In his previous life also, he was a Brahmana. And in his previous life, he took a vow never to lie, always to be truthful, basically. And as he was sitting under a tree, one cow ran in front of him and went to his ashram. And there was one more. After a few minutes, there is one butcher came there with a knife looking for that cow. And he asked the Brahmana, "Oh Brahmana, did you see a cow running in this direction?" And the Brahmana thought for a while, and he said, "Okay, it went in this direction." And because he showed his hand like this, of course, the butcher was able to find the cow, and he killed the cow, murdered the cow. And and it is revealed in his dream that because he showed his hand and he was part of the violence, he had a papa. And because of that papa, in this life, his hand was chopped. And that cow, which got killed by the butcher, took the birth as the wife. And the butcher took birth as the husband. And which is why they had fights probably, and the wife killed the butcher. This is a very interesting story of how karma is a closed loop within 2 lifetimes, actually. May not always happen like this, but this is a very gore story on how karma works and how karma is so subtle, so precise, so sticky. Once you make some mistake, it's very difficult to avoid the punishment for it. As Newton says, of course, every action, there is equal and opposite reaction. And as Bible says, as you sow, so shall you reap. So this is karma in summary through this story. Here is a short, funny video that His Grace Sundaranand Prabhu introduced to us. Chain of Screaming.
We cannot hear the voice, Prabhu. Is that fine?
Okay, I thought so. I may have to. Let me think if there are any more audios. Probably not. Okay, I will summarize this video for you. So this video, I think, is from a popular sitcom. I personally have not watched it, but this part where they're explaining how one boss was screaming at his subordinate, and that subordinate was screaming at his subordinate, and that subordinate went home and he screamed at his wife, and his wife, he goes to her work and he screams. She works at a a daycare or a preschool, and she's screaming at another girl. And that girl happened to be the daughter of the head of the business or the company. So she is screaming at the head of the company. That completes the cycle of screaming, the chain of screaming, as they say. Okay, so the most important question in my understanding is, instead of asking how karma works, we must first understand why karma works. Why does karma exist? And in that connection, we will try to understand uh, one analogy. Uh, can someone name what are the possible things needed in order to plan a city? Let's say you're a mayor of the city trying to build a new city. What are some of the things we might need to plan a city? Anyone who can?
Buildings,
Buildings,
water,
buildings, water supply,
Government,
elec-
municipality,
also
governance, electricity,
electricity,
housing,
hospitals, school,
hospitals, schools,
Sanitation.
sanitation,
jail,
jails. Very nice. I got the answer for the most important part, which is, of course, we will have buildings, we'll have amusement parks, theaters, hospitals when we get sick, colleges to educate, malls to shop, playgrounds to play, roads to travel, and so on and so forth. But then, as Venuji was suggesting, we also need jails. It's a natural question. Why do we need jails? Why do we need prison houses? Because conditioned soul in this material world unfortunately have a tendency to break rules, right? We have government very well uh, spelled out rules. No, don't travel in this way, no U-turns, follow these rules, pay your taxes, so on and so forth. But because they have the tendency to break the laws, we must have these prison houses. There is one joke I am remembering. Once 3 engineers and 3 lawyers were going to Mumbai from some other place. Let's say from Pune, they're going to Mumbai, close by cities. So engineers bought 3 tickets. The lawyers, the 3 lawyers and 3 engineers. The 3 engineers bought 3 tickets, one for each, but the 3 lawyers bought only one ticket. The engineers were surprised. So they got in the train, and as the ticket collector came, the 3 engineers gave their 3 tickets, but the 3 lawyers went into the bathroom. And as the ticket collector went through, he knocked on the bathroom door. One of the lawyer put his hand out with the ticket. The ticket collector punched it and gave the ticket back, and he went on his way. And as he left, the 3 lawyers came out of the bathroom, came back seated. And the engineers thought, wow, this is very intelligent, very nice. So next time on their return journey, the 3 engineers thought, okay, we learned something from the lawyers. So they looked at the lawyers at the ticket counter and they said, hey, look at us, we are also upgrading. So all 3 of them got only one ticket. And this time, the lawyers did not get any ticket. Engineers were thinking, what is this? Some other trickery. Anyway, they went and they sat in the compartment. And as the ticket collector came, the engineers realized, oh, we should make a move. And they all went to the bathroom. And as they were inside the bathroom, one of the lawyer came and knocked on the door. Ticket, ticket. and one of the engineers put his hand out with the ticket. And the lawyer took the ticket, went into the other bathroom where the other two lawyers are waiting. And eventually, when the ticket collector knocked on lawyer's door, they gave the ticket, they punched, and when he knocked on the door of the engineers, they didn't have any ticket. So naturally, they got caught. This is a funny story, but with a moral lesson, which is we have a tendency to cheat. We have a tendency to cheat, which is why, and tendency to bend rules, break rules wherever possible. Because of this reason, in the city that we build, in the world that we live in also, we have these prison houses. But of course, what is the need of a prison house? Many people may say, of course, prisons exist primarily for punishing people. And that's true, because some people learn only through capital punishment. They have to be given punishment only then, and some need hard punishments. But the main purpose of the prison is actually not punishment, but purification, transformation. I think in the American Constitution, prisons are called correctional facilities. Correctional facilities. They are reformatory centers, not punishment centers, but reformation centers, correctional facilities. So using this analogy, we can understand why the Lord created the material world. I remember when we were attending Bhakti Shastri, my wife, Shyamukumari, she asked this question: why did Krishna not allow all of us to live forever here in the material world? Why do we have to die, take birth again, do study for 25 years again and again and again? Why do we have to earn money again and again and again? And this is the reason. So because Krishna, of course, his own description of the material world is Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. Usually, Alayam, Vidyalayam means a place where education or knowledge is profoundly available. And Vaidyalayam means a place where Vaidya or medicine is very easily available, plentifully abundant. Similarly, Alayam indicates a place where something is available in large quantities. And he describes this material world as Dukkhalayam, a place where miseries are found sufficiently. And then, of course, the other thing he uses, Ashashvatam. This is temporary in nature. Because the whole purpose of this material world is a training facility, a correctional facility, a purification facility. So if we go to a prison house expecting there will be AC and I can live here comfortably forever, we will be disappointed. So the first lesson we want to indicate from this is this material world is like a jail, unfortunately. And we are here for our correction. And what mistake did we do? Of course, the cardinal sin, His Holiness Indradam Swami Maharaj mentions, he quotes Prabhupada, cardinal sin is that we turned our face away from Krishna. We walked away from Krishna. That is our cardinal sin, the main sin. And of course, after entering here, because we have a independent nature to enjoy separately from Krishna, we are bound up in so many karmic reactions from there. So if we want to get away from this Dukkhalayam, which is Ashashvatam, and go back to Vaikunta, Kunta means misery, and Vaikunta means a place where there is no misery. So if we want to go back to the spiritual world, then we must get rid of all the karma and go back there. That's the only way. Okay. So it is mentioned every living entity, it is the nature of every living entity is to love. And that's the independence that Krishna has given us. And when we use that minute independence that we have properly, and we use it properly to love Krishna. As you can see in this picture, Madhavendra Puri is constantly thinking about Krishna. If we use it like that, that is the best use of our minute independence. Voluntary surrender to God is the best use of our independence. But some rebellious living entities, we have a tendency to misuse that independence that we have. So instead of loving Krishna, instead of prema towards Krishna, we have kama towards material things. So we leave Krishna and we actually come to this material world. And when we come to this material world, this attitude needs to be adjusted, because the soul, however hard it tries to enjoy independently from Krishna, it can never find happiness. Just as a fish out of water, you may give the fish cigarette to smoke, you may give lots of money, you may give very, very choicest food, you may give it poetry, wonderful music, bungalow, Lamborghini. It's not going to make the fish happy. All we have to do to make the fish happy is to put the fish back in its natural habitat, which is water. Similarly, the conditioned soul, as long as we remain in this material world and try to do all these other things, we will never find happiness. So as soon as we return to the spiritual world, to the spiritual consciousness, we will actually feel happy. So that's why Krishna deliberately created this material world to be dukkhalayam and ashashvatam, so that we get sufficient purification and we realize that even though I'm trying to do my best to love everyone here, they are not able to reciprocate. So the only person that can reciprocate with me properly is the Supreme Lord himself. So in that sense, what is karma? Karma is nature's reward system. Just as we have these Macy rewards, similarly we have this nature's reward system. Every time we do something good, the material nature arranges such that, wow, this guy has finally done something good. So let me give something in return for this guy. Like that. And similarly, when we do something wrong, nature is also giving some token punishment. So we make some correction. All right. So maybe I'll go through a few more slides and then I'll pause for some questions. So why is there no menu at the Karma restaurant? It's a joke. Because you get what you deserve. No need to order anything. So this is a very interesting concept. Many of us are probably not familiar when we begin our Krishna conscious journey. We usually think there is either Papa and Punya. But Bhagavad Gita very clearly mentions that there are actually three types of karma. Of course, the word karma is used in a broader context. So here are the three terms. This is how I remember it. And I'm sure I taught this to many people before. Karma, which is punya, we remain where we are. We may actually get birth again as human, or we may get slight elevation to Swargaloka. So the first type of is called punya karma. And the other type of karma is called vikarma. Vikarma, we go down. Our consciousness goes down. So we may go down into animal kingdom, trees, or we may even go to hell to suffer. So vikarma includes things like killing animals, breaking the four regulated principles, harming other living entities, and things like that. Meat eating, intoxication, gambling, illicit relationships, anything against the injunctions of the Shastra is vikarma. And punya karma is anything according to sense gratification done according to Shastra. Permitted activities, they are karma. And then there is a third type of activity called akarma. Akarma, as it indicates here, it's like an aeroplane that helps us take off from this material plane and go to the spiritual world. And this akarma, as the name indicates, is even though we are working, we are actually not accruing any results, any punishments or rewards for whatever we are doing. So, all right. So those are the three categories. Let me read a couple of verses to substantiate this. Karmano hi api bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi. So this is from the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what is action, what is forbidden action, and what is inaction. Akarma is translated as inaction. Even though we are in action, we are not really getting any results of that action. And here is one more verse, very beautiful verse. Yajñartat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sanga samachara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. And in that way, you will always remain free from bondage. Bhagavad Gita 3.9. So this is the definition of akarma. Akarma means whatever Krishna prescribed in Shastra, we follow that. So what activities we do? There is a list of activities that we can do. There is a list that we should not do. So there is a list that we should do. And what is the intention with which we should do these activities? With an intention to please Krishna for his satisfaction. It is mentioned for your prescribed duties for Krishna's satisfaction. So when we do with this attitude, to the extent we do it, to that extent, we will be relieved of karma. So it's not a 0 or 1. So at every moment, depending on our intention, if our intention is purely Krishna conscious, then we get 0 karma from our activities. So this is karma, vikarma, and akarma. So karma, we put it horizontal line like this because it goes on infinitely. We may be going to heavenly planet for some time, but come down to earthly planet and so on and so forth. So it's not a permanent solution. We will be stuck in this material world. And vikarma is dangerous because we are going down to lower species. And it may take a long time for us to get human birth again and have the ability to inquire about the absolute truth. Okay, I think I summarized many of this. Okay, here are some of the akarmic activities that are mentioned. Can someone please read this slide and the next one?
Okay, Prabhu.
Thank
3. Akarma, spiritual activity. Akarma refers to spiritual activity performed on behalf of Supreme Lord or for pleasing the Lord. Some examples of akarmic activities are the actions performed to please the Supreme Lord. Chanting Hare Krishna, Navavidha Bhakti, ninefold methods of devotional service, and rendering various types of services for Lord's pleasure, like cooking, preaching, gardening, painting, singing, and other similar acts of bhakti.
Please.
One develops devotion for the Lord, detachment from worldly affairs, purity, and spiritual happiness. Since the person for whom the service is performed is Sri Krishna, the supremely pure, akarma liberates one from the cycle of birth and death, bestows love of God, and takes one back to the spiritual world. Haribol.
Oh, there is a beautiful verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam which mentions how bhakti, when it is performed with this akarma attitude, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitah Janayatyasu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayadahaitukam. It is mentioned when bhakti is performed, Janayatyasu, Janayati, something takes birth, Asu, very quickly, something very quickly arises. What is that? Jnanam, Vairagyam and Jnanam. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitah Janayatyasu Vairagyam. First comes Vairagya, detachment from matter. Right now, our consciousness, our senses may be pulling us down. It may be pulling our consciousness down in various directions. But when we start performing bhakti, the activities that are mentioned here, the Navavidha Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Ityadi. So when we start doing those activities, slowly we will be purified and we will develop Vairagya. And knowledge will be revealed from within the heart as a concomitant factor, as a side benefit of bhakti. That's not the real benefit of bhakti. Of course, the real benefit of bhakti is developing love towards God. But even before, even before the sun arises, the sunlight comes. So similarly, all these side benefits appear in the lives of devotees. They develop detachment, they develop knowledge. Of course, because Krishna is there in everyone's heart as Paramatma. Sarvasya chaham vidhi sannivisto mata smritirjnanam apuhanam cha vedaischa sarvairahameva vedyo vedanta kridveda viteva chaham. So Krishna mentions how, as the Paramatma, he gives us remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Dadami buddhi yoganta ena mama payanta. He actually gives us the intelligence by which we can come to him. So performing bhakti and doing akarmic activities are the ways by which we can actually break the cycle of birth and death. And that is why karma exists. Karma exists to teach us the lesson that, okay, this cycle I am not able to break on my own. Let me surrender to Krishna and take up the path of bhakti. And when I do that, I'll be able to go back to the spiritual world. Here is a quiz question. I will read. Let us try to think. This is a multiple choice, so there can be multiple answers in this. Let's see which of these are correct. How is good karma different from akarma? So the first option is good karma is material and akarma is spiritual. Punya karma is material, meaning anything material is temporary in its nature. So punya karma is temporary. You may get a lot of punya and then once you use it up, it is done. But whereas akarma is spiritual, it will never, if we have some spiritual realization, it will always be with us. The second option is good karma fruits get exhausted in future, but akarma fruits are eternal and imperishable. I have already given that away. So both these points are true. Good karma and akarma both are good, and either of them can be performed. No, so this is not true. Good karma is good, but not good enough. Akarma is what we must aspire to do. And for reaping good karma fruits, we have to reincarnate. But akarma will take us back to Godhead. Yes, this is true. So punya karma, because of punya, if we have only punya and no akarma, then we actually still have to take birth just to enjoy the punya we have committed, we have done. All right. So I'm going to narrate one story and then maybe I'm going to skip many of these. These are all different details of karma. Like, for example, if we have given water, if we distributed a little bit of water in this life, we will take birth in our next life next to a river, or maybe in a place where there is 24 hours water facility. If we have distributed books, in our next life we may be printing press owner. If we have distributed clothes, we will have abundance of it. We may have a lot of money to buy clothes, or we may have a textile industry to our name, things like that. And here is an indication of, if we perform akarma, we'll go to the spiritual world. If we perform vikarma, we'll go to the hellish planets. If we perform karma, punya karma, we will go to the heavenly planet. And karma is so precise. In this example, if someone accidentally steps on an ant, and ant, of course, doesn't have fully developed consciousness as a human being, but it feels great amount of pain. Whatever pain we have induced, we must suffer that pain, especially when we are living our lives for enjoyment purpose. If we are just living for enjoyment purpose, then we will have to suffer those, whatever unknown, knowingly or unknowingly, whatever mistakes we have committed, we would have to go through those sufferings. I mentioned these are the 4 types of bad karmas: illicit relations, gambling, intoxication, and meat eating. And finally, so I will pause after this. Why do bad things happen to good people? And sometimes people also have the opposite question. Why do good things happen to bad people? So they usually have, dear karma, I have a list of people you missed. I see all these people doing all nonsense, but looks like you have skipped them. People think like that. But no, in due course of time, everybody will get their fair share. The mills of God may grind slowly, but they grind very fine. So everybody will get their due course. So here is the story I will end with, and then we'll take few questions. Once in 1914, Clark family from London, he's a farmer, and he had a desire to go to the US. So all his life he worked hard to earn a lot of money, and all the money he earned, there was a cruise liner that was announced going to the US. So he bought ticket for himself, his wife, and 3 of his children. And the date was set, and he is excited. He was telling everybody that, hey, we are going to the US. Our life is going to be amazing thereafter. It's my dream from my childhood that we go to the US on a dreamliner like this, on a cruise, huge ship. And 1 week before the departure of this ship, a stray dog bit his youngest son. And because of rabies, the whole family was quarantined for 2 weeks, which means he couldn't get on the ship. And as the ship was leaving, and he could not get any refund also. So all his life's worth of savings are right in front of him, and his dreams are leaving in front of him. And the ship left, and everybody was cheering and enjoying, but he is the only person who is sad and crying. And he was thinking, oh God, what have I done? I worked so hard to earn this. Why did this dog has to bite my child at this time? Crying like this. And he was thinking, oh, stupid dog, I curse you, like this. And he was crying, and he went home. The next day, he heard that the cruise liner that he was supposed to get onto, actually, in the middle of the ocean, hit an iceberg and broke into half and submerged underwater. And most people could not survive and died. And that's the Titanic RMS. And as soon as he heard this news, he started jumping up and down. He thought, wow, oh, fine if I lose my money, no problem. But I'm saved from such a devastating experience. I could have lost my life and the lives of all my family. And then he started searching for the dog, wanting to probably garland the dog. So his perception very quickly changed from, oh God, why me, to, oh God, you are so merciful. This is one material example to show whatever God does has a purpose. And sometimes it may seem cruel that God is doing like this, but it is for our benefit. If we can have faith that this is for my benefit, we will eventually be able to uh, cross over. There was once a girl was, this is distracting, so I'll go back to the previous picture. Once one girl was sitting in an aeroplane, and she was sitting alone, and the air hostess, she came and she gave some blankets to her, some food to her, and she was watching something on the screen, and she was chuckling, enjoying. And one person was watching her, and she thought, wow, this is very nice. She is very joyful, happy. And after some time, uh, as the aeroplane is in the air, as it's going, the captain announced, he said, we are going through some turbulent weather. Everyone, please buckle your seat belts. So everybody buckled their seat belts. And as they were going through the rough weather, the flight started moving, shaking, and the bags started falling. But this guy, he started becoming fearful. He was thinking, oh God, what will happen? And as in his fearful condition, he looked around and he saw this girl. And he saw that this girl is still smiling, laughing, just sitting back. And he was surprised. He was looking everywhere and everybody was screaming, ah, ooh, like that. And some of them were even chanting. But this girl is happy, joyful, not disturbed. Fortunately for them, there were no more uh, hiccups in their journey. And when the flight landed, he went to her and he asked her, oh girl, earlier when there were a lot of disturbances, turbulences in the path, everybody was scared. Why were you not scared? Why were you still laughing? Why were you still enjoying your journey? And she gave a very beautiful answer, which is relevant to all of us as well. She said, oh, uncle, I am not actually traveling alone. You see, the captain of this flight is my father. And he will do everything in his power to ensure I am protected. So I knew very well that even though we are going through a very heavy turbulence, my father, who is very skilled, who is very powerful, and who loves me very much, I know because of this, I for sure know that he will do everything in his power to ensure I am protected. So knowing this, I had no fear. I wasn't worried whether I live or die, or something will fall, something bad will happen, the aeroplane will crash. I wasn't worried. So hearing this, the person was satisfied. He thought, wow, this is very nice. And similarly, in our own journey, in our spiritual journey, we may get turbulences sometimes, and it feels very difficult as we are going through them. They seem very difficult. We have no taste in chanting. Our mind becomes very offensive. People don't trust us. People may criticize us. So the mind is bothering us with material desires, and somehow we ourselves are struggling to follow whatever standard of devotional service we set up to do. But if we can be rest assured that Krishna is the pilot of my life, he is the most powerful being and he is the most loving. And he'll do everything in his power to ensure I am protected. And I say I'm not talking about the body. Krishna may choose to protect the body sometimes and may not choose to protect the body sometimes. But in any case, he will always do what is best for me, the soul. Knowing this, our journey becomes blissful and joyful, wherever we may be, how much our difficulties we may be going through. So knowing this, we may be going through many difficulties, but we can joyfully go through the process of bhakti, knowing that I am getting purified and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And very soon I will be elevated to a higher consciousness, and slowly, over maybe many lifetimes, if Krishna desires, I will go back to the spiritual world. Thank you very much. I will pause here and take any comments, reflections, questions that any of you may have. Thank you for your patient hearing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. If you have any questions, please feel free to questions or comments or feedback. Please feel free to unmute and ask this wonderful speaker who had given an excellent presentation on a very important question. Please
Hare
go ahead.
Krishna. Thank you so much, Shyam Prabhu, for such a wonderful class. This topic of karma, every time we hear, we learn something new, and it's like a refreshing to our memories to be aware of that, why we should be always looking for going high, not going down. So that example also was very good that you mentioned about karma, vikarma and akarma. So that was very good. Thank you. As you were explaining about the last example, it was reminding me of the recent example of the unfortunate thing which happened in Ahmedabad, Air India plane crash. There also, then one lady was mentioning the next day that she missed her flight by 2 minutes. And earlier she was cursing so much that why did I have such an important thing to go and I missed my flight? And then she was thanking God that, all by his mercy that she was able to not take that flight and then she had saved her life. So it was a very good example, which I remembered.
Thank you, Prabhu. I didn't have time to read, but there was one more opposite story. We'll try to share that maybe in some other session. How? I'll give the gist. One Mataji, she had two sons. Both of them became monks, brahmacharis in ISKCON. And she was devastated. She was a pious lady. She would go to temple every week, offer, so what we call as pious materialist. So God is only part of life. Just like in a full meals, we have a lemon and little bit of lemon juice, not too much. We don't want lemonade, only a little bit of lemon juice. Similarly, pious materialist means we want only a little bit of God, not too much. What? Every weekend, every day chanting for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 hours. Well, that's too much. So she was like that. And she mentions how eventually, and she was heartbroken when both her sons became brahmacharis and joined the Pune temple. But unfortunately for her, few years later, she got a very severe stage 3 cancer, which spread throughout her body. And the doctor said she hardly had any time left. So then immediately reality hit her that death is right in front of her. And at that point, she realized what is the point of all this wealth, power, prestige. And then she approached her sons, and who were kind enough to connect her to a spiritual teacher. And she started hearing from Srila Prabhupada lectures, and she started hearing from local speakers. And she understood the goal of life is actually not to have a comfortable living here, going to temple once in a while, but the goal of life is to go back to the spiritual world. And that goal is achievable only when we fully purify our consciousness. So she dedicated the remaining few months she had. She spoke to her husband and she convinced him that they will move to the temple. And very beautiful article there was. And the brahmacharis requested Radhesham Prabhu. And even though there was very little space even for brahmacharis, out of I think 5 or 6 rooms and 90 brahmacharis, they gave one of the room for this Mataji, looking at her sincerity. And she stayed there for a few months. And she mentions in very short span, because of her urgency and sincerity and the blessings of Prabhupada and all the acharyas, she was able to develop so much attachment to Krishna and so much detachment from her material relations and material responsibilities. And how eventually, even though she was going through so much pain, even the doctors were amazed. How could somebody sit peacefully like this? And this is a very difficult cancer to sustain. People uh, cry out of pain 24 hours a day. So, and they were amazed many, many times. And she says how uh, eventually of course, somebody else writes for her, and she, in, I don't know the DT names of Pune, but in there, looking at them, uh, taking their darshan, and while all the devotees are singing, she left her body. And it's a very auspicious uh, leaving of the body, and I'm sure she must be on her way to the spiritual world. The moral of the story is, of course, we may look at this cancer as a bad thing, but in reality, she got a higher goal that she probably could have never obtained in millions and billions of lifetimes. So, sometimes I also heard in the Air India aeroplane, there was somebody, one of the air hostess was a devotee. She was carrying a Kantimala and she's carrying a Bhagavad Gita, and she also had a Laddu Gopalji. And Bhagavad Gita, even though everything got burned, that Bhagavad Gita, nothing happened to her. Laddu Gopalji is also fine and safe. But that Mataji left her body for sure. And we could, some people, material vision is they may feel bad. What is this? Oh, but it is actually Krishna's arrangement, kind arrangement, that by his inconceivable mercy, he arranged a very intense situation where she is able to pray to Krishna very intensely, even for a few moments, and that is in itself good enough to purify her existence and go back to the spiritual world. At least we know for sure she is on the way already, or eventually, we don't know. But thank you, Mohito, for sharing this. Any other comments, questions, reflections?
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please feel free to ask questions to this exalted speaker.
Thank you, Ashray Madhaprabhu. You're more qualified, experienced, well read.
Haribol,
Thank you for
Haribol,
kindly tolerating my
Haribol.
mumbling.
No.
I'm speaking
You
from
did.
your
Your presentation was very good. The pastimes with the devotees, current devotees you brought, they were excellent. One thing I'd like to add is when we discuss these topics, sometimes they send shivers through our spines. They're very intense topics. One thing I like people to take away from here is Krishna never, once we are on the path to Krishna, or even if otherwise, very close, Krishna never puts someone in a situation that person is not able to take it. Krishna knows when Krishna is giving the test, he knows that this person will pass. So that's very consoling actually. That's very consoling because Krishna will give a test that person can pass based on the examples which Shyam Jagannath Prabhu gave. You can look at that intense prayer that happens during that intense times actually takes you to takes you to Krishna. One example from Bhagavatam is Avantik Brahmana. Avantik Brahmana, um, he was Brahmana by occupation. By occupation, he became a businessman actually, and then he was all the time busy collecting wealth, but never treated his wife, children very well. But when he when all his wealth got lost, then wife, children also left him. Basically, okay, this is a man. He doesn't have anything. What we can gain by with him. And with all that, lot of people may think that that person will also become an atheist, but he did not become an atheist. He actually he had detachment. Basically, he had great detachment that came into him. And Krishna, the reason why Krishna speaks about him is most probably no one knew about otherwise no one would have known about Avantik Brahmana. There are so many Brahmanas and so many bad things happen even to the Brahmanas. Who would know? The reason why Krishna brings that story is probably because he considered him a pure soul at the end. And then there are a lot of stories like this in Bhagavatam about I'm forgetting the name of that prostitute who also
Pingala.
Pingala, yes, who also got. I mean, we don't have much time, but those are very interesting. So, if you guys don't have Bhagavatam, I will strongly suggest have Bhagavatam at home and read them. Read Bhagavatam. I can guarantee you that there will be some transformation in your lives for sure. I can 110% guarantee you, because there are some very poignant stories in Bhagavatam which are very transformative. So the Pingala story is similar. Basically, she realized that why she is wasting her time to get yet one more customer, right? And she had complete detachment after that, and she became a great devotee of the Lord after that. So there are a lot of stories in Bhagavatam. If you guys don't have, definitely get one. I have read Bhagavatam end to end many times, and I'm thinking of reading one more time. So I can tell you this is very purifying Bhagavatam. So Prabhu, sorry, didn't want to kind of take
Thank you.
from
Thank you
just
for that. Thank you for, I think you added two important points. One is don't be worried about these extreme pastimes. Krishna will never give a test that you cannot pass.
Yeah.
So he's so considerate. He knows he first gives us the strength to pass the test and only then gives the test.
Correct.
So we can be rest assured any test he gives, he will send the help. So that's a very beautiful point you mentioned. Second, and we can help ourselves by regularly associating with Srimad Bhagavatam. And we can actually develop that faith more and more. Very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashram Madhav Prabhu. You were sharing very good points, and as you were sharing about this, like Krishna gave us the strength before he gave us the test. Arna was remembering, and she was sharing her realization with me. She's not here now; she's gone to her room. But she was sharing the pastime of Draupadi's derobbing. So she said, like Krishna gave her strength to tolerate that, and also he did not allow her dignity to be taken away. So.
Correct.
So he put her in a test which she can pass. So she was able to relate to that.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Of course.
Thank you.
I see it's already 8:30. So since it's Radhastami is coming up this weekend, it's a very powerful prayer. She is the mother and source of all spiritual love that we all experience.
Yeah.
So we can all pray that, of course, these basic topics strengthen our foundations, but we can all pray that we are able to go past all these simple problems in our life and see them as helping hand that Krishna is giving us, a reminder that this world is dukkhalayam ashashvatam, and I should prioritize Krishna and Krishna consciousness. And may she give us the strength to go through these difficulties joyfully. And may she give us taste in bhakti as we perform on a regular basis. May we taste joyful sadhana, chanting, and other associated activities. And may we all advance in bhakti and help others also in their progression of bhakti. Thank you very much for considering my request. Hare Krishna.
वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च
Rubyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitaha
पतितानां
pavanebhyo
पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो
Vaishnavyo
नमो नमः।
Nandakoti
श्री
Vaishnava
जगन्नाथ श्याम जगन्नाथ प्रभु की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद
Prabhupada
की
ki
जय,
jai.
गौर भक्तवृंद की जय।
Ki jai.
Thank you,
Hare
dear devotees, taking time from your busy lives and joining this Wednesday class. Please do not forget to come this Sunday to our temple to celebrate Radha Ashtami, the birth of the greatest devotee of the Lord, Srimati Radharani. Please come and visit our temple for the celebration. Next Wednesday, again, we will join the online only class. Hari Bol. Now, we are going to close this session.
Hare Bo.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh.
Hare Krishna.